I want to teach you 25 academic words that you should know. And these words have been taken from the Academic Word List, which is an excellent resource for English learners, those who are in university or would like to attend, or those preparing for the IELTS or TOEFL. There's a lot to go over, so let's get started. The first word is arbitrary. This adjective means that something is based on an idea or a desire or chance rather than reason. And there are some common collocations with this word. These are words that are frequently used together. So someone may talk about an arbitrary decision, or an arbitrary choice, or even an arbitrary date. It's a great academic word. The board made an arbitrary decision when selecting the new CEO. Then there's inherent. This means that something is existing as a natural or basic part of something. And often this is used as an attributive adjective, which means it's going to come before the noun, like when talking about an inherent problem or an inherent risk. Here are some more examples.
There are certain inherent risks that come with the territory.
It's an inherent weakness of the breed.
So you're saying that friendship contains within it an inherent obligation to maintain confidences?
Now, personally, I think there is inherent value in building your vocabulary, and that is why I recommend you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so that I can become your teacher. My name is Wes, the channel is Interactive English. It's all about trying to help you reach your fluency goals. So let's continue with an adverb, notwithstanding. This means despite the fact or thing mentioned. So I could say, despite injuries, the team still won the championship. And I can express this same idea and use this word by saying, injuries notwithstanding, the team still won the championship. Here are some news headlines so you can get a better feel as to how this word is used in context. Judicial review notwithstanding, examining sex and gender rights in public education. Ukraine visit notwithstanding, does India have any real influence on today's geopolitical rivalries? Trump's claims notwithstanding, US elections are more secure than ever. The next word, norm. This refers to an accepted standard or way of behaving or doing things that most people agree with. And as you can see, this word has become more commonly used over time, maybe when talking about social norms or political norms. Having one child per family is becoming the norm in some countries. Then there's straightforward. I like this adjective because it just means easy to understand or simple. So thinking academically, there may be an assignment that's straightforward, or perhaps instructions are straightforward, or maybe somebody gives a presentation that's straightforward.
So what part of no more karate did you not understand?
Seems pretty straightforward.
Would you tell me about patient confidentiality?
It's very straightforward. Without your permission, I can't disclose anything you tell me to anyone.
Furthermore, this is an adverb that is incredibly useful and common when speaking or writing, and it just means in addition, or more importantly. Now, often you're going to use this at the beginning of a statement because you're really just adding more information. Here's an example. Children will receive a quality education. Furthermore, lunch will be provided to all students. Then we have enormous. Now, this is an adjective that you may already be familiar with, and I hope that you're using it. It just means extremely large. It's a great way to add emphasis. Think about it. There is a difference between me saying, that's a big spider, versus that's an enormous spider. One is a little scarier than the other, but because it's a descriptive word, it can be really helpful in an academic sense, and there are some useful collocations with this adjective. Perhaps something has an enormous impact, or there's an enormous difference, or maybe an enormous amount of something. So it's a great way to add emphasis. There has been an enormous amount of theft due to phishing scams. This is true. There is an enormous amount of theft due to phishing scams, but thanks to today's video partner, you can protect your online activity using NordVPN. All you have to do is click on the link in the description, nordvpn.com/interactiveenglish. Nowadays, using the internet is the norm. I'm going to keep using these words, and there's an inherent risk anytime you're online, but NordVPN provides a gateway to a more private and secure internet. NordVPN can help protect you from phishing scams, which is when scammers pretend to be someone you trust in order to get access to your private information like passwords or banking details. I get these emails all the time. This literally happened to me recently. Thankfully, I didn't fall for it, but these messages are getting more and more difficult to spot. But by using NordVPN's threat protection, you will be protected from malicious links, websites, and malware. And for every purchase of a 2-year plan, you will receive 4 bonus months on top when you use my link, nordvpn.com/interactiveenglish. Furthermore, and I'm adding information, there is a 30-day money-back guarantee. So do not make any arbitrary decisions when it comes to your online activity. Check out nordvpn.com/interactiveenglish to get your exclusive offer. The link is in the description. Let's continue with more academic vocabulary, and the next word that I have for you is precise. This just means exact and accurate. Now, this is a word that I use a lot when encouraging you to build your vocabulary, because the more precise words that you use when expressing your thoughts, opinions, and ideas, well, it's going to allow you to be more descriptive, which means people are going to have an easier time understanding what you're saying. His colleagues were impressed by his presentation because it was clear and precise. Next is deviate. This is a great example of a precise verb because it means to change from the usual way or to go in a different direction. And often you're going to follow this verb with the preposition from, to deviate from. And here are some more news headlines to demonstrate that. BCD survey, 2/3 of travelers deviate from policy. River Board to deviate from Plan 2014. That was a while ago. Nearly 50% of doctor prescriptions deviate from guidelines. Fine study. That is not good. But something that is good is our next word, explicit. This adjective means clear and exact. And there are some common collocations with this word, maybe talking about explicit directions or explicit instructions. Maybe somebody has an explicit purpose or gives you an explicit warning. The professor gave the class explicit directions for completing the assignment. Phenomenon. This is a fun word, especially when saying it, phenomenon. This means that something exists and can be felt, seen, tasted, etc., especially something that is strange or unusual. Now, I said it's a fun word to say, so I want you to think about the pronunciation because it can be a little challenging. It's a longer word. It has 4 syllables. The stress is on that second syllable. Phenomenon. Phenomenon. Now, here are some useful collocations with this word, and I want you to listen to the pronunciation as well.
It's a natural phenomenon.
Phenomenon?
To encounter unexplained phenomena.
To understand an inexplicable phenomenon.
Rhinos do that. It's a most interesting phenomenon.
Then there's mediate. This means to talk to 2 separate people or groups who are involved in a disagreement in order to come up with an agreement or find a solution to their problems. And really, this verb is used in a more formal context like law or business or maybe even an international conflict. I could say negotiators tried to mediate between the 2 sides. And that's one thing I want to point out is that this verb is often followed by between, to mediate between 2 people or groups. Several countries mediated a peace agreement between the 2 nations. Then we have undergo. This is a very useful verb because we can use it in a variety of contexts because it means to experience something unpleasant or something that involves change. And one thing I want you to keep in mind is the conjugation. Undergo, underwent, undergone. Now, when talking about something unpleasant, think about perhaps a medical situation, to undergo surgery or to undergo treatment. She's undergone several surgeries on her knee. Now, if something involves change, and you're really highlighting the change, and that is why you might say that something is going to undergo a change or undergo a transformation. The world is undergoing a technological transformation due to AI. Likewise, this is an adverb that you have probably heard of. It just means in the same way, but perhaps you've heard of it in a more informal context in which it just means like, well, me too. If I were to say, I didn't like the show, and then someone else says, likewise. But it can still be useful in an academic context. Let me show you. These are real sentences that I've taken from the Cambridge English corpus. Likewise, a pathogen will rarely be found in 100% of diseased persons. Or the opposing view that dialects are organized in a continuum without sharp boundaries is likewise popular. I know that these examples are out of context, but I just want to show you how the word may be used, but keep in mind it can also be used informally to mean me too. The next word that I want to teach you is via. This is a preposition that actually has a couple of different meanings depending on whether you're talking about travel or use. Talking about travel, it just means going through or stopping at a place on a way to another place. Very similar to by way of. We drove via Route 66 on our road trip to Las Vegas. Now, if talking about use, then via can refer to a particular machine, system, or person used to send or receive something. Reports have been coming in via satellite. Then there's finite. This means having a limit or end. And there are many useful collocations with this word, but here are some of them. Perhaps a finite amount of something, or a finite resource, or a finite number, or a finite supply of something.
Because there's a finite number of pickles.
You only have a finite amount of time to save it.
This universe is finite, its resource is finite. If life is left unchecked, life will cease to exist.
Ideology. This refers to a set of beliefs or principles, especially one that is based on a political system, party, or organization. This is another word whose usage has increased significantly over time. You often end up hearing it when someone's talking about a person's political ideology. Their different political ideologies sometimes made conversations at the dinner table uncomfortable. I have been at some of those dinner tables, and I'll be honest, I've also been the person arguing at times, but let's just move on. The next word is innovate. This means to introduce changes or new ideas. Mostly you're going to use this verb in the context of technology. I could say the healthcare industry needs to innovate. Hospitals need to innovate. Medical equipment needs to innovate. So I could use it to talk about the industry as a whole, or an individual business, or even all the way down to individual products or services, to innovate. Tech companies constantly need to innovate in order to stay ahead of the competition. Next is confer. This means to exchange ideas on a particular subject, often in order to reach a decision on what action to take. So this is a great verb to use in the context of working with someone else, because you may need to confer with someone. And I'd like to point out that you're often going to follow this verb with the preposition with, to confer with someone. Here are some more news headlines so you can see how it's used in context. Vietnam ready to confer with the US on human trafficking, religious freedom. 2/5 of advisors want to confer with investment specialists. And local Delaware officials confer with congressional delegation in DC. Widespread. This means existing or happening in many places and or among many people. Now, you could say that something is widespread, but I think often you're going to use this as an attributive adjective. It's going to come before the noun. Perhaps when talking about widespread support, or widespread corruption, or maybe even widespread hunger. The attack on civilians drew widespread condemnation. Next is rigid. This adjective has two meanings. The first would be not permitting any change. So in this case, think about rules or a schedule. He has maintained a rigid schedule while working on the project. It also means stiff or fixed, like something is not able to be bent or moved. Here's an example. The plastic chair was rigid and she was unable to get comfortable. The next word is one that I think we can all relate to, and that is reluctant. This is a pretty common adjective, and it means not willing to do something and therefore slow to do it. And often you're going to follow this word with the preposition to. You are reluctant to do something. The other words in the word family are also pretty common. So we have the adjective reluctant, the adverb reluctantly, and the noun reluctance.
He was reluctant to remove it.
It is with great reluctance that I have agreed to this calling.
Oh, right.
I reluctantly accept your proposal.
Justify. This means to give or be good reason for. So you could say that maybe one action justifies another. In English, there's a pretty well-known expression, the ends justify the means, which refers to, well, wrong and unfair methods are okay to use if the overall goal is good. The ends justify the means. He lied on his resume in order to get the job. Perhaps he thinks the ends justify the means. Next is radical. This is an adjective that's pretty common, so you may be familiar with it. It just means believing or expressing the belief that there should be great or extreme social or political change. This is another great word to add emphasis, and some common collocations include radical change, radical views, or maybe talking about a radical candidate. Here are some more news headlines so you can see how it's used in context. Radical left and radical right are indistinguishable. From outcasts to heroes, Ghana's women footballers enjoy radical change in status. Mexico's Senate approves radical plan to elect all judges. And then there's whereas. This is a conjunction that is used to compare and contrast the features of different people or things. I could say, well, you are trying to improve your English skills, whereas I am working on my Spanish. So just keep that in mind. We're comparing and contrasting. She works slowly and precisely, whereas I tend to rush and make mistakes. I know I just gave you a lot of words, so go back, review them, try to practice using them when speaking and writing. They're very useful in an academic context as well as conversationally. If you enjoyed the lesson and learned something new, please hit that like button. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. So long.